Evening. I'd like to call the City of Fraser Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for May 18th, 2023. Open at 7 p.m. Can you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Cindy, can you give us a roll call, please?
Board Member Burley?
Present.
Board Member Schmente?
Present.
Vice Chair Farina?
Present.
Board Member Lessig?
Present.
Board Member
We have a quorum to do business. Approval of the agenda. Is there any modifications we want to make on the agenda?
Yes, I would like to amend the agenda to add to new business discussions for July. Discussions for Myers in July. Correct, Cindy?
For the meeting date.
Meeting date.
Okay.
Let me clarify, July meeting date regarding proposed Myers variance under new business.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. Would it make more sense putting the interview candidate after the old business?
That would be fine.
So I'd like to make a motion to change.
Well, here's the only thing. I have a feeling that this is going to go on for a little bit of time. If the candidate wants to stay, he can, but if he doesn't want to stay, then he could leave.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, or
That's
you,
okay.
if you want to change it, that's?
Nope, that's fine.
All right, any other changes? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Yes.
Oh, I'll support.
Okay, we have motion and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public hearing, interview of our candidate. Is he here? Hey,
Mr. Farina,
yes,
I
ma'am.
believe before we get to the interview candidate, I believe we have the approval of the minutes and also a formal statement.
I'm sorry, you're right, thank you. You can just stay there. All right,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes with one change on page 2, item number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth paragraph down. It says which is 400 feet, it should be 40 feet. That's all I have.
any other corrections? All those in favor is approving the minutes as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Petitioners and members of the audience, the Zoning Board of Appeals, as herein created, is a body of limited powers. Where there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in the way of carrying out the strict letter of the Fraser Code, the board shall have the powers in passing upon appeals to vary and modify any of the provisions of the code relating to the construction, structural changes in equipment, or alteration of buildings or structures so that the spirit of the code shall be observed, public safety secured, and substantial justice done. No variance in the provisions or requirements of the code shall be authorized by the board unless the board finds evidence that all of the following facts and conditions exist. A, that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question as to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. B, that such variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right similar to that proposed by other properties in the same district and in the same vicinity. The possibility of increased financial return shall not of itself be deemed sufficient to warrant a variance. C, the authorizing of such variance will not be substantial detriment to the adjacent properties and will not materially impair the intent and the purpose of the Fraser Code of the public interest. D, that the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of that property for which the variance is sought is not of so general or recurrent of a nature as to make reasonable practicality the formulation of general regulation for such condition or situation. Having said that, we're going to go on with public hearing, and we have a candidate here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Matthew Goodell.
Hi. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
43. I've been living in the city for a little over 11 years. I work for Detroit Land Bank Authority as a project manager too over their rehab and ready department. So we redo all the houses and everything. So we work closely with Detroit Building and Zoning Department. And then before I took this job, I had my own company for 8 years as a mag construction. We did quite a few houses and rehabs and stuff like that.
Why do you want to be on the ZBA?
I've been living in the city for a while. I've been worked for the city of Detroit. I feel like I could be a good part of it. I'd like to know what's going on, what's being built and all that stuff.
Okay. You realize that it's not our job to approve everything that happens.
No, I do understand that because I work with the city of Detroit building and
Right.
zoning.
Formal statement that I just read applies very, very literally to what we do.
Yes, I understand that.
And we have to take it very seriously that we are, in essence, giving people the right to break the law. Okay. So, having said that, where do you see the city going?
Hopefully in a somewhat better direction than what I see in the council meetings. So I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
I like to see it go I want to see it to stay safe. You know, I got my younger kids and that me and my wife are raising, so yeah, I want to see it to go into a positive situation.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the candidate?
I'm assuming you know how to read blueprints,
Yes,
both commercial and residential?
yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm good for right now. If I had something else, I'll think of it.
I know most of the setbacks, but every city's different with setbacks and all that stuff, so.
Are you familiar with the ordinance book?
Of Fraser's?
I mean, I don't expect you to know it, but are you
No.
familiar with the ordinance?
Not the city of Fraser's. I am with the city of Detroit, because I work for them, but not Fraser's.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Burley?
No, I'm good. No.
Mike?
Sure. Thank you for coming in and applying.
Yep.
I guess, what do you think you could bring to a board for the city of Fraser? You said you want to make it a better community.
I like to bring in like fairness, with the residents and that, because I hear a lot of stuff. So we just moved from the Venetian Village and just moved into the, off of Clearview now.
Okay.
Drive. So we were, looking around to leave, and I don't know, I just feel like I can bring a lot because my knowledge, obviously. I've been doing it for 24 years. So I think I can hopefully bring in, good thoughts and positive and meet goals and all that.
Well, and I think, and I'm fairly new to this board myself, what I've learned here is that our job is to apply the law fairly, equally, and impartially, listening to the petitioners, and are you able to do that? And do you think you'd be able to do that even if it's someone that you know and someone that you?
Yeah. Yes.
That's really that's the hard part is
Your neighbor.
Your neighbor.
I know what you're saying.
So,
I think I would, yeah, definitely.
All right, and so you read blueprints, you're
Yep.
fairly good at that, and if you're working for the city of Detroit, I'm sure you're pretty good.
We had to take, and I had to take an oath for the city of Detroit, being fair to the residents and all that stuff, what we do down there, so. You can't be biased, you can't just, because it's a friend or something.
Yeah, what is the Detroit, can you just briefly describe your role in the,
So mine is a project manager too, and what it is we are going into all the blighted houses.
okay,
And we go into different districts. So what we're trying to do is raise the house values. So we'll do like on the east side, we're in Island View right now. So we're doing like 8 over there. And then we go into, what's the other one? Russell Woods, and that's Dexter and Davison. So we're trying to raise, we do a bunch of fix-ups, 100% like rehabs. You know, we work with the city, well, we are the city of Detroit, but work with the building departments, zoning and all that, because if we want to do addition, they give us the okay, yea or nay. So, I mean, I make sure I run all the crews that we have, the contractors, from start to finish.
okay.
I oversee, right now, I'm overseeing like 9 projects, I would say.
Okay, so you take properties that need rehabilitation as part of the
I mean,
Detroit
I'm
Land Bank
talking,
Authority.
Been sitting vacant for like 20 years.
Yeah, and then you make them habitable and
Yeah, 'cause-
code and,
Yeah, the mayor doesn't want to keep tearing down. He doesn't want all the vacant lands no more. We have a new modular program that's going to go in for the vacant lands. So we're going to have modular homes going in, foundations at some point, so.
okay, thank you. I think I have answered my questions here.
Any other questions? Anyone?
Last one. Our meetings are usually the second Thursday of the month, or first?
First.
First Thursday of the month.
Okay.
Do you have any problem making those meetings? Okay, thank you.
No. Go ahead.
That's what I was going to ask.
Now, we go out and we see the properties. Would you have any problem visiting the properties?
I hope I do that now, so for my current role and my position.
Okay. All right. All right. Alyssa, how do we want to handle this? Your ballot, public affirmation, what do you want to
Make a
do?
recommendation.
So I think first, Mr. Chair, we would at least want to open the public hearing since it is noticed as a public hearing, and close that if there's no one in the audience, which I believe there's no one in the audience. And then after that, the board would make a motion to recommend, if that is appointment of Mr. Goodell, and then you would take a vote.
I just have a question. Is it due to being a zoning board of appeals that there is a public hearing for the interviewee? Never seen that before, so I just did.
I don't know the exact answer. I just think that it was noticed as a public hearing, so I think we should at least make the
Okay.
record clear that.
That's fine. I
yeah.
just didn't know if that was a specific.
I can look into it after the meeting if
Okay.
you'd like me to.
Yeah, for
but-
the future, because we have more openings.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody, you can stay right there. Okay. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this subject? Anybody? Bring it back up to the board, closing the public hearing. I'll take a motion.
I would like to make a motion to appoint, to recommend the appointment of Matthew Goodell to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term ending, do we know what the term ending date is? December 31st, 2025. Thank you. That would be my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Cynthia, can we have a roll call, please?
Board Member Burley?
Yes.
Board Member Henke?
Yes.
Vice Chair Farina?
Yes?
Board Member Lessig?
Yes.
Board Member Menendez?
Yes.
Well, now, we do not make we make a recommendation, it goes to council.
Okay.
They decide, okay?
fine.
And they do the appointments, so.
Okay.
If you want, you can go to the next council meeting and be there, and so they can see you, or, yeah.
Will that be on the next agenda?
I will,
Or,
tomorrow when I go in, I will write up a cover sheet and get you on.
You can
the
send me
next
an email, like if I need to be
and
there.
I'll get you the
whatever.
information.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
I'm all set then?
You're all set?
Yeah, you can stick around and watch the fun.
Actually, I might stick around for the first one.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is variance request 22-05 Smoky Joe's Signs. Hi there.
Hello.
Hey, Mr. Lippman, you want to go?
Sure. Okay, so this matter's back before you. The applicant seeking a variance to put up a 10.19 square foot addition, which says liquor, to its existing 59.5 square foot sign, which would total 69.69 square feet of signage. Since 32 square feet of wall signage is permitted, the applicant's requesting a variance of 37.69 square feet. At last month's hearing, the applicant's legal counsel requested additional time to FOIA documents related to the signage approvals for certain surrounding businesses. The search produced relevant documents related to 4 Fraser businesses: Love Sushi, CVS, Shots Market, and Smokey Joe's. As I outline in my review letter, in July of 2021, my predecessor, Paul Erbiel, approved a 48 square foot wall sign for Love Sushi. Although Section 32-85-2C only allows wall signs of up to 32 square feet, Section 32-85-2B2 expands the permitted area by 50% more when it's in a shopping center, so 48 square feet would be in compliance. We simply don't know how their current sign ended up being larger, but that's a matter for code enforcement. And I talked to Bob Logan about that earlier today. In July of 1987, the ZBA heard a request for 10 additional signs at Shots Market. Of the 10, 3 additional signs were approved at this meeting. However, there's no record of the members' reasoning. In August of 2006, the ZBA granted several sign variances for the CVS at 14 Mile and Garfield. Apparently, there was no opposition, and the minutes from that meeting do not include any rationale or discussion related to the variance. I state in my letter that it's conceivable that special consideration was given because CVS is a national chain with its own design standards, and moreover, there may have been recognition of the fact that CVS carries health products, has pharmacies on staff, and often offers some health services which might justify larger signage to give the facility greater exposure. And then finally, in March of 2019, the current 59.5 square foot wall sign at Smokey Joe's was administratively approved by Jim Wright. At the very least, it's highly questionable whether there was authority to take this administrative action, but I feel like the appropriateness of that expansion isn't the subject of this hearing. And if inappropriate expansion occurred in certain locations in the past, that shouldn't be used as a justification for expansion in this case. But I would like to emphasize that that 59.5 square foot wall sign, although it probably shouldn't have been, was administratively approved. So I'd just like to reiterate what I stated last month, that I don't see exceptional or extraordinary conditions here. The variance isn't necessary for them to do business, and this would set a problematic precedent. So accordingly, I recommend that the request for a variance be denied. Thanks.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, on that, where you said that they increased it from 32 for 50% more, when I looked at the code there, and it says office and neighborhood commercial districts, it's not for community business districts. So does that mean it is for that? Or if you look at the code on page, I don't know, whatever it is,
Let's see.
80, section 3285,
285. Hold on one second.
Mr. Burley, I might be able to answer that.
Okay.
Okay,
Some
thank you.
clarification. So, under 32-112, which lists the zoning districts, under office and commercial districts, that includes the office service district, the commercial neighborhood district, and the community business district. So I believe that the community business district would fit into that 50%
The
increase.
commercial part. Okay.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Who is that? You?
No,
Mike?
No,
Are you-
not at the moment.
There's lights on.
no light on for me.
Oh,
Says city manager.
Oh, it's probably, was that you, Andrew?
I think so, yes.
That was Andrew.
All right. Sir, do you have anything to add to your application?
Yeah, if I may briefly, Mr. Littman touched on all of the information that was FOIA'd outside of Sal's Liquor, that the information sent over. I just wanted it to be included in your context to the board. That was the one other business that you didn't mention.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is the,
I just wanted you to give a breakdown of every business that was FOIA'd.
Yeah.
That was the only one I didn't hear anything about, so I just
Okay.
ask that you present it in your own way.
okay, well, I didn't see anything relevant related to Sal's Liquor, that's why I didn't include it.
Okay. Well, I won't make it a question basis, but there was no variance on record for that.
Again, if it wasn't there, then we couldn't find it.
We'll go in if you guys allow us to do so.
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to just let my line start with a statement of his own.
How's it going, Council?
Please
So,
speak into the mic.
Yeah, is that
Right
better?
in front of you, yeah, so it picks up on the recording.
Perfect, awesome, thank you very much. So just something I just want to let you all know. During the first meeting, Andrew mentioned it's not uncommon for a business in this city to sell liquor. Therefore, that is why adding a liquor sign is not necessary for my business. That is not correct, as there are only 4 other businesses in this city with an SDD liquor license, and one of them is Myers. That just shows how difficult it is to obtain an SDD license. All 4 of these businesses have not only an extremely excessive amount of signs, but much larger signs than myself. That alone should show you all how crucial and important it is for me to get approved for this sign. There are 2 businesses I would consider my main competitors, Shots Market and Sal's Liquor. Shots Market has 13 wall signs and with ease got approved for 10 additional signs during their first variance meeting. Sal's Liquor has 7 wall signs and his own digital pole sign, which is also prohibited according to Section 32-85B. Also, in the commercial zoning district in which Sal's Liquor is located, it states that a business may not be permitted more than 2 signs, one facing the street, which is the pole sign, and only 1 sign on the building. Yet he was given 0 issues getting approved and did not even need a variance for the 7 signs and pole signs. Yet we have been being dragged back and forth for 5 months regarding only 1 additional sign. I just don't understand how I'm expected to compete when I'm given such an uneven playing field to be on. Why would any vehicle choose Smokey Joe's over these other 2 stores that have almost a dozen signs on them? Also, during the first meeting, I was asked to remove my window signs and paintings, as well as make the additional liquor signs smaller and make it look attached to my current sign so it looks like 1 large sign instead of 2 separate signs. I made all of these compromises only to get this issue postponed yet again. I'm having an extremely difficult time understanding why you're asking me to do these things just to keep on dragging this longer and longer. Why are some businesses being favored more over mine? Why did I even get approved to expand and add liquor if I cannot let the public know with an additional sign? I'm in the CBD zoning district. If I were in the office or commercial neighborhood zone, I would easily be allowed to add this additional sign because I would occupy 2 units. And that's according to the zoning map that was re-adopted in 1996. Fraser is a much different city now than it was probably in the 70s when this original plan was written. Is it not common sense that variances must be made to keep up with the times 50 years later? I'm not asking for anything extraordinary out of pocket. What I'm asking for is something much less than what my competitors have. I just want to have the same opportunities and earn business and make an honest living. Thank you all.
Does the board have any questions for the
Yep, I have a
applicant?
comment.
Yes.
When you're comparing with these other individuals, like, this one variance was in 1987. We can't compare apples and apples when we don't even know what the ordinance was back then, to compare this to now. I'm sure, I could probably almost bet it's changed. I know it, when was our last change, Liz? But I mean, if we're going to compare, we have to compare apples and apples, and there has to be a hardship or practical difficulty. In terms of other people with signs in their windows and things, that's for code enforcement to have to deal with. That's not for us. Now, if you come before us for a variance and we see something that is brought to the attention of the administration, code enforcement, or whatever, that's how that happens. But we don't go out and we don't do code enforcement for everybody else. But in terms of comparing a variance for what these other people have, we don't have reasons, we don't have hardships, we don't have practical difficulties. And I'm sure when you look through it, as an attorney, you saw the same thing. So to try and compare it with nothing when, as a board, that we're sitting here and we're bound by our rules to do it a certain way. Now, just because somebody did it a certain way before, doesn't mean we repeat the mistakes or that we do it the same way. There's been many changes in between. So we go based on what we have in front of us. Now, if you would have pulled one here that was in line with our current ordinance as you're coming before us, that would be different. But to me, this doesn't help me either way in favor of you, especially a variance from 1987. There's no background on it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but even like I said, it also did state that, like, you know, the zone that Sal's is in, online on your website, it showed that they are only allowed 2 signs, one facing the street and one on the building. So, like, how was it just approved, you know, just like that without even having to apply for a variance or anything of that nature?
Well, I agree, that I understand, but we can't speak to that when it's not come before us. Mr. Lippman, we didn't have anything in our records for Sal, did we, with regards to a variance?
No, I didn't come up with anything.
So we can't speak to how that got there.
So he's like my main competition in the city. I mean, I just don't understand how I'm expected to compete even a little bit when you look at his storefront and then you look at mine. It is just so not an even playing field. It is just so, like, not fair, not at all. It is a hardship, definitely. I can't gain business the way he can, not having the signs that he has.
I can mention to you, Sal's has been referred to code enforcement, and they are looking at that, okay? Because we are aware that you took down your signs, and we would expect the same applied to anybody else. So it's been referred to code enforcement.
And honestly, even if, like, these other businesses, you know, if they minimize their signs as about the same as mine, I mean, I'm happy with that too. I just want to have the same opportunities that these only couple other businesses with a liquor license have. I just want to just have the same opportunity they do to earn business. That's all I'm asking for.
And there's just some information I'd like to add when I'm able to do so. So in the beginning, I took a note from Mr. Lesich's statement that, you know, one of the goals for the board is to, you know, apply the law fairly, equally, and impartially. Now, the message that it sends, and the reason that, you know, I don't mean to single out any specific business. I don't care to point to somebody if they've, you know, been out of compliance for all these years. That's not our purpose, but it sends the message from the city that without the variance that specifically Sal's Liquor never received, which was in an email from the FOIA I received, the sign is over 20 feet in from point to point. And it's it was approved in 2014. So we're talking 9 years that sign has sat there. It sends the message that just put it up. You don't need to ask for a variance. And that's the wrong message, because Smokey Joe's has tried to follow everything by the books, every rule, and he's the only one that it feels that he's the only one that's being penalized for it. It sends the wrong message. If he sits around and waits and causes all these businesses now to have to take down their signs, there's just not a uniform between members of the community. But to backtrack on what is most important here, being the elements that are required, I think that there is a couple things to note that I believe Smokey Joe's can still qualify when walking through those ordinances. Those A, B, C, and D of section 32-228. Now, A being that there is exceptional or extraordinary circumstances, that circumstance exists, as stated by my client, that liquor licenses aren't easily obtained. There's a long process when applying through the state, and most of the time, it's years, if you're even going to get it. The only alternative is to purchase them. Most counties cap them, as you would know, and they can be transferred, but that's the extent of them. There is not many places in Fraser that specifically offer liquor. I mean, we can't compare, if we compare apples to apples, we can't compare a shop designated for people to walk in and purchase to restaurants. Everybody knows restaurants are going to have drinks. So when you remove that aspect of it, it is a very limited amount of individual stores that actually sell liquor. One of those being Myers, which, again, is a national chain. Everybody knows that they carry everything. And so for the quote-unquote smaller guys to be able to, advertise their product, be known for what they're selling, the liquor license in itself maybe isn't extraordinary, exceptional, but when you put it into context with the city and his competition is 0.2 miles down the road, he has a 20-foot sign advertising every single thing he's had for 9 years with nobody having any issues, and he comes in to ask for an additional signage. Again, I think that rises to the standard that makes it exceptional, extraordinary. When considering that the variance is necessary for preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right, Smokey Joe's has been in business, has tons of good reviews from the community. What I found interesting is he showed me a list of when he first opened up the store and posted, Smokey Joe's. Members of the community were commenting that they believed it was a barbecue spot, barbecue food. That was the first thing they thought of when they thought of Smokey Joe's. It is impossible to correlate that Smokey Joe's is going to sell liquor without the ability to show that. As stated earlier in this meeting, you mentioned CVS. National chains should not be privileged with additional signage when majority of the population knows that almost everything, you can walk in and have everything at CVS. You can grocery shop at CVS. I mean, it's a backwards thinking to accommodate to national chains that already spend thousands in marketing and advertising. It's known what they have, but not confusion for the members of the community to think that Smokey Joe's or a simple sign up on the wall post is going to grab everyone's attention. That doesn't allow Smokey Joe's to enjoy their property right that they have obtained, which took 2.5 years to get the liquor license. It wasn't purchased, it was obtained through the state, and it was a 2.5-year process with, what was the senator's name?
Senator Kesto.
Senator Kesto was on board and assisted him with that. That the authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and not materially impair the intent and purpose of the chapter, of this chapter or the public interest. I've searched for the purpose of the ordinance or how to not impair it when everything around us does not coincide with what the ordinance says. The ordinance was readopted in 1996. That leaves a gap of 27 years. There's tons of things that change in 27 years. People's opinions change, people's overview on things change. I mean, we're talking 27 years ago, the people writing these these rules up did not accommodate for, you can't predict the future. So it is not something that was rewritten or adopted more recently for us to put in line that it's something that makes sense for today's day. And I think that the way that Smokey Joe's specifically is situated, although he doesn't have storefront off of a major road, 14 Mile, or on the corner of 14 Mile or Garfield, he's very close to Garfield and right off of 14. When driving the side of his business, I mean, when you're driving eastbound on 14 Mile Road, you wouldn't be able to catch his sign on the front of his building unless you were, not paying attention to the road. You'd have to turn your whole head to see what this sign even looks like versus having a sign on both sides of the building is gonna grab all carriers' attention. So all people driving would be able to see that. I think I begged on the question the last time around. How can we impair the intent of the ordinance if it hasn't been followed for years and years? It's sat in the city's view for years. I mean, we're talking 0.2 miles from the city where we're holding this meeting. 9 years. They've had a 20-something foot sign up, and nobody's had anything to say until Smokey Joe's comes in and asks for an additional sign, and we're going to fish out everything else. I mean, it worked backwards. It feels like he should have just put up the sign and wait for people to find out, but that's the wrong message. I mean, doing the right thing should be acknowledged and appreciated, not frowned upon, and let the people who went a different route and chose not to come before the board or even ask you guys for an ability to put up these signs, it's the wrong message. The authorizing of such variances will not likely be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties. I think that's been a non-issue. I don't think that anybody adjacent to him, they all have bigger signs than him, if anything, wouldn't be affected at all. And the conditions of the situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use which variance is sought, if not of so general recurrent nature, to create a general rule for such condition. The board or Mr. Littman noted that it is not uncommon for a business in the city, whether a store or a restaurant, to sell liquor. Therefore, if these variances are granted, it is foreseeable that many other businesses would request larger signage. Again, I go back to my point that liquor licenses are generally capped by county. They are the price of a liquor license in Macomb County, and speaking off of experience, was about $300,000 to $350,000 that you could sell it for. I mean, I'm sure that comes with a little premium due to the fact that it's being transferred, but these are not things that anybody can just purchase tomorrow. This is a large financial investment. These are tough to obtain, and most people don't sell them because they're operating their businesses with them. So it is not a common thing that liquor licenses are just granted. It is not a common thing that stores open up and start selling liquor. So comparing apples to apples, as we stated, I don't think that a fair comparison is a restaurant. I think that's a whole different field of what they do. 5 places in the city of Fraser sell liquor. And Smokey Joe should have the opportunity to just advise people that he sells liquor. And my last note would just be that 2 times that his liquor order to come through, 2 times they missed the date completely because they weren't able to pinpoint. No one's first thought was that a place called Smokey Joe's sells liquor. They didn't show up on the day of. They called, they figured it out, but they were late on their order, or they came the next day because they weren't able to find which spot in this shopping center or this plaza is the liquor store. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the unique hardship that he brings before the board, and his request is not asking for 20 foot of signage. It's a minimal request. It's just for the purpose of exercising this new property right that he's obtained, and I think that it would not deter or materially impair anybody from going about this the same way we did with a hardship or a unique situation. So we do ask the board to consider all of that.
Member Menendez.
As far as the liquor license go, the variance stays with the land. It stays with the building. If you guys walked out tomorrow, correct if I'm wrong, your license would go with you, or you would transfer, correct? if you decided to leave that building and go someplace else and that was turned into a shoe store, that license, liquor license, that can't be the reason that we grant you a variance because you have a liquor license.
Even a conditional one?
Not in my opinion. Not as far as I'm concerned, no. Because there has to be a hardship or a practical difficulty with the property or the reasoning, because I've been at that property in day and night. With the signage that you have now with that pylon, I do not have a problem seeing it. And how your delivery people missed it when we have GPSs that go by address, that's kind of confusing to me too. I'm terrible at directions sometimes, but GPS kind of gets you there unless it reroutes you someplace out in rural areas, that'll happen. But in terms of the visibility, I've had no problem. Even I come out of El Charros, and I had no problem seeing it. And I know you made mention before, well, maybe because you're looking for it. No, it just stands out. The coloring just stands out, and I could see it.
May I just
that's-
ask what you're referencing when you mentioned that? I apologize, I thought you were done.
So that's my problem with it, because I feel, given the fact that this one's already larger and approved, and as a board, I can't sit here because somebody made a mistake prior, or somebody approved something prior that I don't even know how they did it. I can't approve a variance just because somebody did it and I have no substantial backup on it, or because they did it wrong. And we should do it now and repeat the same mistakes again.
Okay. Member Burley.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the cost of the liquor license is a lot, and you're probably an excellent operator, you know, and a good citizen. But this is the zoning board. We actually have to say what's in the zoning law. There's got to be a hardship, you know, from the property. And I don't see a hardship from the property that you're showing me, okay? You're saying that you're a great operator. Everybody else, you know, has one, basically. But there's no property hardship. And if you show us a property hardship that the actual physical property is making it difficult for you to sell liquor, then that's what we can do. But we cannot do it because somebody else does, is basically, I think, what she's saying.
Member Lesich.
Yes, couple things. I'll start with, you referenced my statement to fair and impartial. I joined this board, I think, last year, in 2022. I'd never served on a zoning board of appeals before. I was not here, I was not in any capacity with the city in 2014 when Smokey Joe's put their sign up with or without any variance or whatever. So what I meant by my statement today was, I have what's before me. I have the law, and it's my job to interpret that law, listening carefully to the petitioner, listening to our attorney, and our planner, and to make a determination of the facts in front of me. I understand, you mentioned other properties. If code enforcement wants to take that and bring everybody back into and looking at not having a variance and make them tear down that sign, that's the code enforcement's job. That is not the job of the zoning board of appeals today. If if Sal's Liquor then came before this board and filed a petition for a variance, we would address it in the same manner we're addressing it with you, to give you a fair hearing and to make a determination. And then you used CVS as an example, which I didn't understand because we've talked about the liquor store. CVS doesn't sell liquor. So they're a different business. And I wasn't here when those decisions were made. And the last thing, you mentioned this twice. I like your story. You're a great business in the city. You support a lot of things. I have zero problems with you conducting a commercial business in the city. But you mentioned, that your attorney mentioned twice, that the name doesn't lend itself to liquor sales. It does not, the liquor delivery. They couldn't find it because they didn't think Smokey Joe's would sell liquor. That is not a problem that the ZBA can solve. If the name of the establishment was Payless Shoes and you sold liquor, maybe change the name. But you mentioned it twice, that perhaps the name is part of the problem. What happens if the sign, if we were to approve that sign and that variance, and you put a bigger sign up, and you still didn't get the sales you were looking for? Would you then come to us and say, I need a bigger sign, or I need another sign? These are straw men, but the idea is, we have the law, we have these things that we have to look at. You have a business to run. Perhaps, and the sign's already larger than 48 square feet is the allowable, and it's 59.1 at the present time, I believe.
Oh, no, sorry. The allowable is 32 square feet,
Okay.
and so this is.
But
This is
Love
really-
Sushi was approved at 48, I
Correct,
believe.
yeah.
And possibly in error. And so let's acknowledge that.
Yep.
And your sign, I believe, currently is 59.1, is that correct?
59 and a half.
Okay, 59 and a half.
So-
So it is already larger than the Love Sushi sign was approved, and I believe the Love Sushi sign may actually be larger than it's supposed to be. So I can't pick which error and I can't land on a particular reason to do that when I've got all of these things are in flux, and perhaps someone got away with something. As you said, one way to do it is to put it up on the wall and wait till somebody complains. I think that's the wrong way to do business, and I appreciate that you're here. But I just can't pick which mistake to land on, or which reason, especially without a justification in the past, so.
Can I make a comment to that? So, regarding what you just said about our sign not letting people know that we sell liquor, when we opened 4 years ago, I never thought that I would be blessed enough to actually be able to obtain a liquor license. So that's why the name had nothing to do with liquor. It was a smoke shop. That's where we were when we opened. And, so we were able to obtain the license and expand and add our liquor. So obviously, if we were going to open as a liquor store, it would be a totally different, everything would have been a lot different than it is right now.
Including, well, may I respond to that, Chair? Just briefly. You may not have had the same name. I bought a business in 1996 called Magnetic Media Services, Inc. People said, what do you do? Reasonably. Do you sell 8-track tapes or floppy disks? I changed the name of the company to better reflect the things we did. And so that was a business decision on my part. And so that's part of your marketing and your decision on that. And if we even were to approve this variance, you might change the name anyway in 2 years or in the future.
Well, the reason why I did not change the name and why I would not is because I have almost like 400 Google reviews. I'm very well known in the city. People know that Joe Mattia works at Smokey Joe's. If I change the name, that would draw business away if I change the name of my store that's been established in the city for 4 years now.
Okay, I'm done. I think I made my point.
Mr. Burley?
Yeah, this is a question for Mrs. Erickson. Now I'm more confused, because before it was 32, then it was 48, now it's 32 again. So does that apply to this right here, the 48 square foot?
I can clarify a few things, but it might be a long-winded answer. So in this district, under 3285, one 32-square-foot sign is allowed. Under the provision that we discussed earlier with the 50% increase dealing with Love Sushi, that is for a business that occupies multiple units, and the Planning Commission actually has discretion to up it to 50%. Whether that was done administratively or not, again, in error, I'm not entirely sure, but again, as Mr. Farina has kind of hammered through this meeting, is that that's a code enforcement issue, and I believe that code may or may not be looking into that signage. So to answer your question, the applicant, based on the ordinance, could go to Planning Commission and get up to 48 square feet if they occupy multiple units, which I'm not sure if that's the case here.
Yes, he does.
So if he occupies multiple units, he could go to planning commission, they could up it to the 48 square feet. But obviously, the request from the applicant is greater than that 48 square feet.
Right.
So I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I believe that's probably the reason why they're in front of the board, because the zoning board obviously has the ability to go above that 50%.
Okay, thank you.
Does that clear
Yes.
thing? Okay.
Now, his sign, so everybody understands, is 59.5 square feet. It was approved at 59.5 square feet. We all understand that was an error, okay? Now, I have a question for you. Hypothetically, if he took down the current sign and put up a sign that said Smoky Joe's, smaller, and liquor underneath it, would he need to come back here for another variance? Since it's already approved at 59.5 square feet.
So, Mr. Farina, although it was administratively approved in error, it is our office's opinion that a variance would be needed for the sign that is up there right now. If it was taken down and brought forward as 32 square feet with whatever the content may be, then no, there would not be any approvals needed. However, if the if the existing sign is going to continue on site, it would be within the authority and necessary for the zoning board to act on at least approving the variance in excess of that 32 square feet, as it currently states.
Even though it was approved.
Correct.
It's a bad day at Fraggle Rock.
That would open up the door for everybody's errored approved signs to be. I mean, we just can go down every single business in the city probably at this point, because I understand, I'm not holding anybody on this board accountable for other people's actions or making notes that your guys aren't being unfair. That's not my thing. But we're stuck with the results of prior board members making decisions. We have to reap the the bad that comes with that. Now we have a fair board. Great. And now we have a board that follows the law. Awesome. That's how everything should be. But somebody else has an advantage. And
Okay.
if we kick it, the
Mr.
issue
Burley.
to somebody else.
I'm a small business owner, and the small guy always has this disadvantage, and it's the quality, the service that will make him win all the time. It's not a sign. I mean, word of mouth is the best marketing at all. And it's nice, yes. It's nice because you can get the person driving by through Fraser who's not in Fraser and says, hey, you know what, there's a liquor store. You can get that persons. But most of the people that you're going to get is from word of mouth and from your good customer service. I mean, but again, it's not our decision, to give a variance because in my opinion, there isn't a hardship from the property. There's a hardship because you're small, and there's other competition that were unfair for whatever reason. But that's not our decision to do that.
Okay. Is there anything new you want to add? Address it to me.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone in the public that wants to comment on this? Anybody? I'll bring it back up to the board then. I'll entertain a motion. Now, I have a question for Alyssa there. If there is a motion, it should be in the positive? Or are we allowed to make a motion whichever way? I was told one other time when I was up here that motion should be in the positive.
It's up to the board. If there's a motion to approve the applicant's request in whole, if it's a motion to approve a portion of the applicant's request, if it's a motion to deny, really any motion can be made based on whatever the board's intent is.
Okay. Does that help? Yes, Mr. Burley.
One more question. Could you consider that a corner, even though it's not a corner as in two streets, a corner property, because it's actually facing that way?
I would defer to Mr. Littman on how the application came through, Mr. Burley.
Yes, Mr. Lippman.
I wouldn't consider that a corner lot.
Even so, if it's facing a different street and it has no front face on there, you wouldn't consider that a corner lot?
Okay, I would have to think about that, I guess, and look at the code, but
Between them there, it'd be kind of tough to consider.
Well, that's what I was saying, since it wasn't front facing.
Okay. Do you want to wait for that answer from him, or do you want to go on?
And the store is accessible from both roads too, so.
No, I don't think it'll make a difference, because you're right, it's really not a corner.
Okay. No, sir, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, it's also accessible from both roads, which would, I think, more qualify it of being, a corner lot.
Okay. Thank you. We're up for a motion. I'm waiting for a motion. Anybody? Motion. Okay, then the chair will make a motion on behalf of the board. That's that variance request appeal 22-05 for Smoky Joe's for additional signage over and above that allowed be denied because there is no hardship that we can find that would allow us to approve it. That, Ms. Erickson, is that the way we should set that?
Mr. Farina, if the board's intention is to fully deny any signage in excess of the 32 square feet, even the existing sign, then that would be the correct motion to be made. If the board is intending to allow the applicant to continue with the signage that is already there, then it would be it would be a motion to approve whatever the excess square footage is from the sign that is already there.
And I have a question here, Mr. Burley.
Yeah, I got a question. You can't do a conditional if somebody moves out. It has to go with the property.
A variance goes with.
So no matter what happens if he were to leave, there's no way that you could put that into the motion.
I mean, I think that perhaps you could. It would just be very, very hard to enforce, quite frankly. And additionally, if a new tenant is coming in, they're going to pull the sign down anyways, so.
But if they pull down the sign, they have to come back to you guys, right? To the city to get approval?
For a sign that would be greater than or,
Well, let's say their sign was up there at 59. They were to move, okay? And somebody would obviously take the sign down, and they would have to come and get a new sign. So they would have to submit to the city, right?
I believe that, yes, sign,
So really, if he ever leaves, it would kind of go with him. As long as the person doesn't know that there's a variance with the property. You're the lawyer.
I know. I would have to, I believe that I'd have to check with administration because I don't know how if a variance for a sign is approved, if they record it against the property or if it's just for a use variance. I don't know how the city here handles that.
Mr. Lippman, do you know?
I would have to check on that too. Sorry.
I don't want to interrupt anybody. I just want to ask a question when the time's right.
Okay, then I withdraw my motion. Yes, sir. You want to?
I didn't understand the purpose of our petition or request for the variance to include what we absolutely relied on the city to give us. It was the city that approved us at 59.5 square feet. For us to be put at the detriment of taking this sign down, thousands of dollars, I mean, that is, again, the wrong message being sent that don't come ask for anything because now we'll take away what we gave you. I didn't even understand that to be something that we were discussing. I thought it was the additional signage to the 59.5 square feet that we were requesting. But to take away what the city already granted us based off of nothing, I can't find even a legal basis for that.
And then this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa, that the point she was trying to make is that the board just decided to deny your request as it's stated here, right? They could just fully deny it. You still have 59.5 here, which is out of compliance. So if they were going to deny it, the city could make the board could make a motion to approve the 27.5, put you completely in compliance, and then you're not out of variance, you're lawful now, technically, according to the ordinance. You have a variance and everything's good, but you just don't have the extra one.
That I understand that. That's how I understand.
That's what I understood.
That's exactly. Sorry for.
It's okay, listen.
So that way you don't have to take it to, now it's legal, and then it's recorded that you have a 59.5-foot sign. It came before the ZBA, but at this time, unless they change, and it's my understanding, isn't they're working on ordinance changes? That has been a long time coming. For years, for some odd reason, it's not come to fruition, hopefully soon, because it has to go before council, right?
Has to go to the planning commission.
Planning, then council for approval, and then, maybe at that time, things will have changed ordinance-wise that can do that, but I would be in favor of making a motion to approve 27.5 feet, not additional, but 27.5 plus the existing 32 for a total of 59.5, which is the existing size of your current sign, which would keep you in compliance. And it's of record, so nobody can come back 10 years later and say, hey, your sign's out of compliance. And again, if you can be patient, maybe the ordinance will change, I don't know, but that would be my suggestion.
Is that your motion?
I would second that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and second. Is there any discussion? Cynthia, can you do roll call?
Board Member Burley?
Agree?
Board Member Svente?
Agree.
Vice Chair Farina?
Agree?
Board Member Lesich?
Yes.
Board Member Menendez?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank
Sorry
you
for all the-
clarification, Ms. Menendez. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, ZBA 23-01, 31475, Utica Road, Devon Storage. Is there anybody here to represent that?
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Littman, you're up.
All right, thank you. So to refresh your recollection, the applicant initially proposed to convert an existing building into one featuring 61,690 square feet of climate-controlled storage space, as well as construct 9 smaller drive-up storage buildings totaling 24,198 square feet. Interestingly, part of this 4.4-acre site is zoned IC, while the remaining part is zoned IR, which also makes it a little complicated. At the April ZBA hearing, the applicant sought several variances concerning side yard setbacks and distances between buildings in the industrial controlled zoning district, Specifically, 5 variances were sought. Side yard setback variances for buildings C and D, which were both less than 100 feet from the adjacent residential district, and 3 variances for distances between buildings. Those were not granted. The matter was tabled, and the ZBA advised the applicant to revise its plan so that so many variances would not be necessary. The applicant has revised its site plan and is now only seeking 1 variance concerning Building C's side yard setback. Under Section 32-1443B, in the IC district, if an exterior yard borders a residential district, there must be a side yard setback of not less than 100 feet. In the applicant's revised site plan, Building C has a proposed 59-foot, 11-inch side yard setback from the adjacent residential district, which requires a 40-foot, 1-inch variance. Under Section 32-228, where there are practical difficulties or necessary hardships in the way of strict enforcement of the zoning ordinance, the ZBA may grant appeals to vary or modify any zoning provisions that apply to dimensional standards. And of course, we look at the requirements in Section 32-228A2, and it's our position now that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances that apply to this site. As I already mentioned, it's unique in its irregular configuration and the fact that there's split zoning, which presents extraordinary development challenges that don't apply to other properties in the same zoning district. The second factor is that such a variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right, like that enjoyed by other properties in the same vicinity. The property right is the right to utilize the property, and in this case, the only utilization would be as a storage facility, since it's in the middle of that type of development already. The next factor, that authorizing such a variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the intent and purposes of the chapter, of this chapter, or the public interest. The proximity of Building C to the adjacent residential property should not really be a substantial detriment, in our opinion, when considering such matters as odor and noise and the visual effect, which is minimized because of the existing 6-foot-high masonry wall, because of its uniqueness. So since the applicant has satisfied all these standards, we would recommend that the ZBA grant its request. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Whip?
Hold on. You said building.
Building distance from B, C, and D to Building A, a 40-foot is required under 32, 144,
Yeah.
4D. I see.
So building A is,
Do you know how it got right on the lot line without any setback?
I do not know that. No, sorry.
And if it was under one use before, and we're converting it to a completely different use now, how are you going to maintain it? I mean, it was an office building before, correct?
I thought,
Was it office?
okay, sorry. E and C and D and A. Yeah, so again, it's my position that 40 feet distance wouldn't apply because this is a legally non-conforming, a legally non-conforming use.
But is C, B new? Is that new, a new addition to that, to the non-conforming A?
Yes.
So then why wouldn't it comply? Why would there not be a 40-foot setback if you're adding new buildings and A is non-conforming?
this D, C, and B are simple additions to a building, which wouldn't, they're all part of Building A. I mean, technically, in the world of the building code, they become inside the envelope of a single building, so they're not separated by a distance for any reason. They're served by the same electrical services, fire suppression services, MEP. So I think site planning and discussion, we're kind of talking, we're crossing the streams a little.
So it's attached, you're saying?
It's the same building, yeah, it's the light switches and the heat furnace, fire suppression are all the same. It's part of the bigger building now.
And you see no problems with that, Mr. Littman?
No, if they're adding on to the, yep.
They're not separate, okay. Building H, the rear, let me put my glasses on. The rear yard setback and the portable storage building being attached, there too should be 20 feet?
Sorry, so
20-foot
Building H, you can have a zero setback, a zero side yard setback there.
Right. I believe that's correct. I don't think that the other setbacks, there is no other nonconformity in setbacks other than the small portion of Building C, subject building that we're looking for the variance. All the others.
Done. Next one for you. Building distance from the conversion building to Building A. Again, because it's non-conforming, that's acceptable?
Yeah, because those, yeah, same reasoning. Those two buildings are already there. So they would be legally non-conforming.
And my second one with Building D for the rear yard setback, because that's essentially attached, you're saying? Again, non-conforming?
Well, so Building D, that's, no, I was interpreting that as a side yard setback.
But it's a rear, correct? Should be rear?
All right. Well, I would have to look at the definitions again, too, because that doesn't have any frontage. Let's see. All right.
Okay, while you're
Sorry.
doing that, let me, Mr. Burley?
Nope.
Who's this?
It was me.
Okay. Sorry, Michael.
There was mention, just, you brought it up, second bullet on the public safety. You got this letter, right? Okay. Just want to make sure you have the same stuff we do. And then, just one other question for my knowledge. Snow storage over there by Building C, looks like about 30 feet. And so what, I don't know much about snow storage in a storage, self-storage area, but if you had at all. Those are my two questions so far. One more question, one more clarification in plain English. You're asking for one variance essentially because of the existing one-story storage conversion building is essentially, what, 59 feet or so? So you're saying that one variance also, you're asking for this Building C right there to essentially comply with that same,
That's right.
or be allowed under that same setback from the existing one-story, the old building in the front. I don't know if I'm saying that clearly, but.
That's correct. The building logic and the layout logic here, along with our very specific unit mix requirements, lays out in such a way that an addition along this edge of Building A makes the most sense for our operational plan. And it has to be noted that there's already a 53-foot setback. We're actually not increasing in dimensional. We're not increasing dimensionally the deficiency. we're increasing the volume of the deficiency.
Yes, and.
But we're not, but we're staying back further than the already non-conforming building. So
Okay.
we're 6 feet further away
Yes,
from the
okay.
property.
Okay.
So that's the only piece that we need the variance to make this simple,
Okay.
small piece work.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Ms. Menendez.
What about the RV storage? Because again, according to the ordinance, it says it's supposed to be 100 feet from residential, but the law enforcement had said to remove that. So is that going to be removed?
That'll be a planning commission issue. We are not conditionally approved by planning commission. We have to go back after this with the results of this hearing, and we may well have to move that around, the RV. But at this point, if it's determined that that's compliant wherever we're putting it, I would assume that that'll be caught by Andrew and his team also. But I don't know how that's come up. I haven't been deeply involved in the planning commission hearing. So I understand your point.
You haven't come to planning commission.
I have not.
I just want to make sure it doesn't get missed. For example, if somebody approved it, I mean, that would probably be a condition because we can't just
That's a
leave
real
it over to somebody else,
Right, it's a real
Right.
public safety hazard,
especially that.
especially when they call it out.
We do not allow any RV in boat storage. We do strictly our buildings themselves, so we do not allow any outside storage on that outside area, like the neighbors do in storage. We have none on all of our facilities all over the country.
Well, that's different than we were told.
Your drawing indicates that you would. have
Correct.
RV storage. That's why we're mentioning.
Frankie.
So you're telling us there will be no RV storage there?
Down there.
Can you have your people remove that from the site plan?
I certainly can. We can conditionalize it in a motion if you'd like also.
Frankie.
Mr. Chimente?
On building B, you've got 10 feet in that little area there. What is that opening? Is that an opening there? In the corner?
Building B,
On building B.
I'm looking for building B. The
It would be your light,
notch,
Yeah,
You got 10 feet. What is that area right there?
well, that's probably a door. We usually indicate that with a fire egress or fire exit door.
An entrance of some sort?
Yeah,
And that's 10 feet you indicate, right?
yeah. But understand, this building is loaded from the inside. So you're driving, this is a feature that, that higher-end facilities often see, but we're going to drive into this building, close doors behind you, turn your car off, and then load your unit, if you have a climatized interior unit.
That's an A.
It's an A.
Mr. Burley?
Yeah, I got a question for, I'm not sure, the attorney or Mr. Littman. No matter what they're going to need, or what happens in this instance if we were not to grant a variance, and because the current building is not under the variance? They're actually within the 100 feet of the setback right there at the corner, I should say, of A and C. It's actually less than 100 right now.
So, based on what Mr. Littman has presented, it would be legally nonconforming, so that use can continue.
Okay.
So long as, according to the ordinance, it's not destroyed more than 50% or things of that nature. But I will note that the ordinance does provide that no such nonconforming structure can be enlarged or altered in a way that increases its nonconformity. The legally nonconforming status is a bit new to me as of this evening, so I haven't really dove into that specific analysis here as presented with the plans, but I do just want to mention that for the record.
Can you repeat that?
So, let me just, one more thing, because that way I might understand this. So if you take out Building C as an example, they didn't do Building C as an example, okay? But they did B and D, which is attached to A, they would still be out of compliance because they're adding to the building,
Well, I think that
modifying it.
so I don't think that my office or Mr. Lippman has undertaken that analysis with, and Mr. Lippman can butt in if he would like. But I think that might be something that my office and his office might want to take a look at in terms of perhaps the possibility of, as proposed, expanding a nonconformity that exists on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Can I comment on that? Those buildings are not expanding a nonconformity. They're not in the nonconforming portion.
But I believe that the whole structure, which if we want to call this A, correct?
Yeah.
That large gray area,
Right.
isn't that what is a legally nonconforming structure? Isn't that what's being asserted to the board?
No.
So-
The front setback along the road is nonconforming. So the first 50 feet, maybe?
Which would mean that the whole building would be legally nonconforming, because you're saying the whole building has been there essentially, correct?
Right.
No.
The huge gray building,
Oh.
is that existing?
In my experience,
Okay.
what you're talking, what you would rule against would be me taking this front and stretching it across, even within this 100-foot setback, stretching it out this way inside of this nonconformity. But once I get to the setback line, what we do in here to that building is irrelevant to the front setback.
Building pink is existing.
Yeah, the pink building's existing.
That's the existing building.
And the large gray one, correct?
Pink and the gray is all existing.
And you're saying what is it, rust color, pumpkin color? And the blue underneath attached to it?
That's right.
Well, if you're adding to it, it's already non-conforming, and you're adding an additional piece to a non-conforming, in making your non-conforming thereby greater.
It's not a non-conforming use. The only non-conformity of the gray building is in the front setback area. And the little chunk of pink,
Well, it's sitting on a zero lot line also,
that's allowed.
correct?
That's not I believe the internal lot lines in industrial districts are very often zero. And I would assume that most of the community around here is also zero all the way around. Industrial to industrial interior is very often zero. And probably-
So to piggyback on what the applicant is saying, I think I agree with him in that adding on where he's adding on with building B and C, I do not believe that would be increasing the nonconformity because the nonconformity would be in the front with the front setback. So he wouldn't be, so exactly what he said, that if he was adding on to the front of the building, then he would be increasing a nonconformity, but because of where he's planning to make these additions, I don't see that as increasing a nonconformity.
Okay. Joseph, are you, excuse me, are you going to improve the lighting around the grounds, everything? Because I've only seen it the other day, there's something shining on, would be Building J, and something on Building K would be illuminate, there's two of them I've seen, so.
Correct. We're going to use the lighting standards that are codified with the planning code, and make sure that the light doesn't bleed off the site, but keeps it to the foot candle level consistently throughout the site. So it'll be all new lighting.
So you're going to add?
Of course, yes.
What about-
Building mounted shielded LED lights throughout the site.
So, RM zoning it won't be affected anyway.
Will not be. And there's already a photometric plan drawn by a lighting provider that's out there, submitted to the planning department for review, and has been reviewed.
Mr. Lippman?
And what about the ground and everything like that? Is it going to be leveled a little bit? Because there's a lot of a lot of big
All
trees.
new asphalt? All new asphalt, brand new
New
site.
asphalt's going to be down, so it's all going to be nice and smooth. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a Class A facility.
Mr. Lippman?
Yes.
You were like,
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
oh, okay, all right. All right, is there any other questions for the administration?
Has he received the law enforcement's review
Yes, he has,
that we got today?
that he had. They said they plan on complying with all of those items.
I just have one comment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for pointing out that the non-conforming use relates to the front of the building. When this building's fairly old. Do you have any idea how old it is? You mean 1930? Yeah. So at that time, Utica Road was probably 2 lanes. And so the non-conforming use may have been partially caused by the expansion of Utica Road to 4 lanes. From a wood plank road to a, dirt road to a commonly used road. So just thought I'd point that out, but I do appreciate that clarification.
Yes,
I noticed down here, too, we have the easement for, oh,
sorry. Is that, oh, that was you.
for Sweeney Drain in Building D. Looks real close. Are we in compliance with that? With these drain easements that, Building J, we've got enough clearance between those easements?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see it on there.
We are, we can touch the edge of the easement, and we're feet away from them, from that easement line on either side. But, yeah, but we go in increments of 10 feet, so, we gave this extra space towards the easement. But the proximity to the easement is 0, if you want it to be, right? Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. The applicant have anything he wants to add?
Well, I think we talked through all my talking points, so I can answer any further questions. I just want to make sure that everybody got a chance to visit and sees the condition of the screen wall and the concrete wall and the vegetation that's there that'll be, that if the neighbors maintain it. Also, I don't believe we've had any letters or emails from the neighbors regarding the public notice. And that I think it's important to keep in mind that this is probably the lightest use, the least intrusive use in the zoning district. So we get very, very little traffic, have very high security. It's fully fenced in, it's staffed, it's cameraed, and there's no addition to traffic, there's no additional burden on the public services. So the neighbors, knowing that this used to be a dumpster drop-off zone with noise, are getting a very, very, very
Good neighbor.
good, quiet neighbor. And because we have so much open space given back to the easements and other things and strange irregularities of the site, granting this variance for this small portion to allow us to fulfill our unit mix doesn't give us a benefit that someone with this same acreage and this same zoning district has or doesn't have. You're not giving us a benefit because we've already given so much open space up to the strangeness of the site layout. So in other words, if I bought this many acres in this zone and wanted to put self-storage, I'd probably put 175,000, 3 stories tall. It just isn't in the books for this one. But that's my point there, is that you're not benefiting anybody by doing this, except for the building logic and the architect's sanity.
Mr. Lesage?
Yes, if we were to consider approving this tonight, you mentioned removing RV storage as a condition. That's because you don't plan on having any RV storage there.
You okay with
Oh.
RVs, taking the RV?
RV, boat storage along the wall? No, I'm asking about you. Trailers? Trailers?
You can put a trailer inside, you can put or do you store RVs inside and no vehicles? Okay.
let me clarify my position. My position is based on the public safety's letter that you got today, okay? That it would be extremely hard if a fire broke out and you had boats with gasoline in it, trailers with gasoline in it, RVs with gasoline in them, to fight, and it'd be a safety hazard to the, okay.
And by the way, the contractual agreement, the lease agreements, there is no liquid fuel allowed in any object even inside the building. So you can't take a lawnmower, much less a car or a snowmobile. So this is household and office storage
Okay, thank you.
on site.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of our attorney? How would we add that as a condition to a motion to approve?
So whatever, if the board is making a motion to approve the requested variance, it would just be noted that with the condition that blank, the RV storage is,
Disallowed?
I'm sorry?
Disallowed, would that be a proper word?
Or you could simply just say that the RV storage is removed from the site plan and not permitted on the site.
Okay. Guess more words, I gotta remember.
However you want to craft it.
On the drawing here for, you got RV store, what's going back there in back of K, building K, in that area right there? What's going back there you have?
In the back of Building K. It's just striped area, and it's probably my office who sees that we have all of this available asphalt. And when we have available asphalt in a self-storage site, we stripe it for vehicular storage.
What's going to be parked there?
Well, nothing now, if there's a condition. So, and, yeah, if there's a condition of no outdoor storage, the parking goes at the office. When you load or unload, you pull up to your unit, unload, and leave. So there's no cars meandering in the back. You're only parked at the office to sign up for your unit and get your key, then you come and go.
So you're coming in this end and coming back out the other one and around?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's just going to be empty area.
That's right. And my office, knowing that it's not going to be outside vehicular storage, will close that loop with Mr. Littman for the Planning Commission.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything else you want to add, sir?
No, sir.
Anybody in the public want to be heard? Not hearing anybody, we'll bring it back up to the board for a motion. Does anybody have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance requested 23-01 for Devon Storage to obtain a variance from the minimum side yard setback requirement from the adjacent residential district of 40 feet and 11 inches, where 100 feet is allowed, due to its unique and irregular configuration, and also has two different zonings in one property, with the condition of RV storage removed from the site plan.
Before I get a second, can I add RVs, trailers, motorhomes, and boats?
You shall.
Thank you.
Cube trailers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Removing it from the site plan would be sufficient language to ensure that it would not?
Yes, because once they go back to planning commission, the planning
Okay,
commission will make.
thank you, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, there's somebody that sits there. They'll make sure. All right. Anything else? Any other discussion? Okay, Cynthia, can we have a roll call, please?
Board Member Burley?
Yes.
Board Member Smedley?
Yes.
Vice Chair Farina?
Yes.
Board Member Lessig?
Yes.
Board Member Menendez?
Opposed?
Okay. Motion carries. Now,
Where's your stamp?
I don't have my stamp. Besides, there has to be some variance, there has to be some, you're going to redo this plan.
Yes, this,
Can you get that to the city, and then I will come up and give you an approval stamp for that?
with the, you want to
I
approve
don't have an
what we've...
approval stamp here, Cindy.
I know nothing about it, so I was not sure of that.
We don't have a drawer here anymore?
Used to be-
Apologize. Stamp's gone. Shoot,
Maybe Stemming took it with him.
You probably could write approved on there with the date and sign your name, and it would not have the same.
But
it may not
he has
look
to,
as
ma-
official.
he has to make changes to this, correct?
No, that'll go through, we're not approved at planning commission level. We haven't been approved at all there yet. So that'll come through their approval stamp. And the number that gets approved on will follow through with the condition of no.
I want the stamps I need to, before I approve it.
Yeah, I can see where it is, I was not aware, so I apologize.
Not a problem. And then, if it's okay, you can, thank you, good night. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah,
did you guys happen to put up the one in St. Clair Shores? The one on St. Clair Shores on 9 Mile? No, the storage place, where you drive into it, just like you're proposing here.
I didn't do that one.
oh, really?
Really? You mean the office building? Wow,
Climate-controlled ones drive into the.
wow.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you on Storage Wars.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Unfinished business of the board. Or wait, discuss new business is the next thing. Discussion for the July meeting date.
So, if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
we had, Alicia came in and asked me, when our meetings were in June, et cetera. We had an application made by Meyer, and they were anxious to get their variance request before you, but they came in a day late. The alternate date was gonna be June 15th, and we determined we were not going to have a quorum. We didn't know exactly what was going on, so, she then told them they were going to have to come to the July meeting. Well, when you approved your calendar, you approved your one and only meeting in July on the July
I
26th.
thought we did the whole thing with that change.
Well, I
I
think it
thought we
was
did
'cause
the
of
whole
July 4th.
calendar, huh?
Yeah, but I think they changed it from
Because
July
of July
4th.
4th.
So instead
was
of July
4th.
6th.
Okay.
You agreed, yes.
Right.
So, a couple questions. First of all, the June meeting, if we were to have it, is going to be in 2 weeks, and to my knowledge, there's no new business to come before it. So, did you want to still hold that meeting? There will be no business on it. You'll have nothing on your
Makes no
agenda.
sense.
Yeah.
We'll save the city money.
So, if you're not going to, I probably need a motion for you to authorize me to cancel it, or,
There's nothing,
No,
no, there's no new
no.
business.
Lippman normally, the planner sends out a thing that says there's no business.
Yeah, that's usually what Paul would do.
Right. And
So I'll make a
therefore, the
motion.
No, cancel that?
No motion needed?
No motion?
Perfect, okay.
I don't think we've done that historically.
Okay.
So we can just
All
go
right.
ahead and
I
consider
think
that
it's just been
canceled?
administrative.
Just write cancel.
Okay.
Post an agenda that says no business, no meeting will be held, something like that.
So, the next question then, I think your alternate date in June, we already decided 15th is not gonna work, so I feel that Meyer would want to meet before July 20th if they could. It's my understanding that they can call a special meeting. It's the normal $800 fee to apply, plus another $250 for the special meeting. The question is, do you folks have a day that you could all meet for a special meeting before July 20th?
In June, correct? After June, what is his?
So June 15th was the alternate date, and we weren't going to have a quorum. It wasn't going to work. So, and I believe that Alicia told me she needs at least a 15-day lead time to get the public notice in the paper and the notices sent out to the surrounding property owners. So I told her I would ask, and if it won't work, it won't.
How about the 21st? I have that down as,
I'm available the 20th. I will,
First is a Wednesday. Don't you have planning on Wednesday? Or
no,
not?
no,
not that week.
not that night. I have that down as the alternate ZBA meeting. My calendar's
That's what I have, July 20th as the alternate, but you were saying they wanted sooner.
No, June
So
20th.
they
or
can have
20
it June
She's
sometime.
talking about,
Is that possible? That you could pick a date in June that would still allow them, like, if you did the 21st or the 20th, that still gives, Alicia the 15-day lead time.
22nd?
I'm out of town that week, but I am coming back for a follow-up with my doctor on that Tuesday, the 20th, and I could stick around to come to a meeting. I would prefer to do that rather than the 21st because I have family.
And that's my
that I'm-
birthday, so I'd be glad not to be here, no offense, but no.
Okay, so from the 12th to the 16th, I can't do, so.
I can't either.
The following week,
Okay,
is it 20 the date?
it would be the
So
20th.
Mr. Lessons, you could be here for the.
I can stick around for the 20th, yes.
20th? Okay, so I can go ahead and tell her then we can call a special meeting on the 20th of June, 7 o'clock?
Would you like us to call that meeting or make a motion for that, or?
No,
We probably should
Okay.
make a motion to
hold on,
set a
just,
special
Okay,
meeting
let's-
for, you said June 20th?
Yeah, I want to, yeah, I want to make sure Mr. Farina's, or co-chair Farina is doing something.
yes, I'm trying to make sure that. Okay,
Are you good with that date?
I'm good with that date.
I would like to make a motion to hold a special meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals on June 20th, 2023 at 7 PM.
Now, do you have clearance for us to use this room? Or are we
There,
good?
there should be no one in here on the 20th, we should be fine.
What day is that, by the way?
Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
What does Myers want?
Yeah, there needs to be a second.
Okay, any discussion? There's no public to be heard? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Okay. The unfinished business of the board. No? Moving on.
No, wait, I did have some, well, I don't know, maybe it's unfinished.
Okay, go.
How far are we out from getting that sign, the infamous sign ordinance revised? I mean, it's crazy, it's been so long.
I know that our office received a copy probably about 2-3 weeks ago, and Mr. Denault is reviewing it.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. The monthly report. Anything we need to know there, sir? There is a building that was on Utica Road, I'm going to have a question for you then, that was demolished, and there's a big hole on the side of Utica Road. Is there anything going in there?
I will have to check on that.
'Cause the hole is still there, and it's been a month that the building's been demolished.
Okay.
Is that the one right down by Groesbeck?
No, the one by Myers, just south
Oh,
of
that
Myers.
one.
My
yes, that one.
understanding, we have some issues with some soil.
Okay.
Okay. Look into it.
Dairy Queen.
Oh, there.
About the Dairy Queen.
No. Is there any news on, any changes on the Dairy Queen on Groesbeck?
No, well, we're looking at that review now. We'll put that together for the planning commission next time.
What are we looking at?
I haven't gotten to that review yet, but I will soon, and that will come up for the next planning commission meeting.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Hockey Land. What do you want to say about Hockey Land? What do you both want to say? And you tell your buddy that I'm ticked at him, okay? That he had promised us that that would be done, and they were moving along, and it is not done, and I really feel that we are going to, the city is going to get the short end of this stick. Okay. Mr. Lippman, you want to speak? Your light is on again.
Sorry.
You like pushing buttons, don't you? Okay.
Sorry.
All right, shooters, special land use. patio construction begun without a permit and contrary to the approved site plan. Stop work issues. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have a question about any of these?
I'll ask you later.
Okay.
And fill me in.
Okay. We did not have a planning meeting last month, so I have no report. Public to be heard. Anybody in the public want to be heard? There is no public to be heard. We're going to move on. I will entertain a motion movement to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for your patience.
Nice job, Mr. Co-Chair.